Steven Spielberg is back after 4 years with an original Alien movie, but does it deliver? What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and welcome back to another video. Today, I've got my review of Disclosure Day. I was able to check the movie out early. These are going to be my honest thoughts on the film, the latest from the legend himself, Steven Spielberg. Before I get into this, hit that like button, comment down below your predictions, expectations, thoughts on the movie if you've seen it as of watching this video, and of course, subscribe and hit that notification bell to help reach my goal of 200,000 subscribers here on the channel. Will mean quite a bit. But I want to give you a little bit of background with Spielberg and myself, okay? When it comes to his filmography, I've seen every movie, officially, all 35 with Disclosure Day. I had seen tons of his movies growing up, right? Some of the classics, the Indiana Jones trilogy, Jaws, E.T., Jurassic Park. But there were a lot of deep cuts and less popular films I wanted to explore. So over the last year, I've actually ventured into his filmography, and I finished just in time for Disclosure Day. So I'll have a ranking of all of his movies coming later this week. If you want my in-depth thoughts on all those movies, Letterboxd is the place to be. But when it comes down to it, I was straight up excited. This is one of my most anticipated films of the year, so I went in wanting to love this movie, and I come out a little more mixed on it than I would hope. So the setup for Disclosure Day is essentially Josh O'Connor's character wants to get some information about life outside of Earth out to the public, or disclose it, if you will. All the while, there's this government organization led by Colin Firth's character that wants to put a stop to this and not allow for any of this information to get out. Throw in Emily Blunt's character who plays a news reporter. She gets intertwined in this story in ways I won't disclose here, and you got yourself a movie, ladies and gentlemen. I am going to start with my pros. The first one is extremely obvious. If you've seen any Spielberg movie, it goes without saying, this is incredibly well shot. I feel like Spielberg is one of the few remaining directors who consistently delivers from a visual standpoint, no matter the actual quality of the plot, the character development, the writing. It is guaranteed when Spielberg drops a movie, it is going to look like a work of art, and that is certainly the case here. You have the distinct, very signature Steven Spielberg cinematic lighting. There are choices with like the backlighting and just framing of certain shots that's gorgeous. He is a king at that. His use of reflections and mirrors throughout his entire filmography is a real highlight, but it's emphasized here yet again. There are moments where characters are in a car, you see their eyes in the rearview mirror, a side mirror, and then in one swift motion of the camera, everyone remains in frame as we move to another area. There are one-shot takes of characters walking throughout buildings, homes, whatever it may be. You even get a really riveting chase sequence about midway through this film that utilizes crane shots, which is just Spielberg in his bag. I feel like he's almost bragging, just showing off here with his talent behind the camera. Cannot emphasize enough how gorgeous Disclosure Day looks. There's even this sequence involving a train. I won't, give away the details, but that was pulse pounding. Like, that is one of the most thrilling moments in the entire film. There's a chase sequence and a sequence involving a train where I'm like on the edge of my seat. Feels like a classic Spielberg moment. Would it really be a Steven Spielberg movie if John Williams wasn't composing the film? We get another score from him that just feels like vintage John Williams. The score of a film is a really key component, and it shines here. It feels like some vintage 80s John Williams. There are hints of Close Encounters, hints of E.T., and it really adds to the overall experience of the film with the immersion, but also the emotions. I think John Williams, the maestro himself, and Spielberg have worked hand in hand for all these years because they know how to bounce off each other so well. The score here, I think it'll probably get nominated for Best Original Score at the Oscars. Damn near win. I don't want to get ahead of myself. We got Ludwig with The Odyssey. We got a Dune score coming out. So there's a lot of awesome music in film coming down the line this year, but this is a contender for me right now for Best Score of the Year. And then you got the performances themselves. Emily Blunt, probably the best here, okay? Her character, I don't want to reveal what happens with her, but if you've seen the trailer, something's going on, something spooky, something mysterious. Her character plays an integral part in the overall plot, and because of the position her character's in, she's having to do a lot as an actress, right? She's having to switch the way she speaks, her behaviors, facial expressions, all this switching from scene to scene, and so really impressive physical performance from Emily Blunt. And then you got Josh O'Connor, who's a little more subdued in this film, but he has a lot to do as well, and the two of them are able to show off their skills. And at its core, this movie does take some big swings emotionally and thematically. It asks the question, what if we aren't alone in the world? What would the repercussions of that be, right? Let's say that tomorrow the news dropped that there are aliens out there and we're not alone in the universe. How would the world respond? How would organized organized religion respond. There would be crisis across the globe. People's faith might crumble. I mean, it might lead to an all-out panic globally, and chaos would ensue, right? Who knows? This movie asks those questions in a fascinating way. Like, this movie poses the question, what would the ramifications be if extraterrestrial life existed? So there are moments where it touches on these ideas of doubt within religion or questioning faith. So on paper, there are so many ideas that I dug, but I think the movie kind of gets in its own way in a sense because of its runtime. It's 2 hours and 25 minutes, kind of transitioning into some of the cons I have with it. This movie's just much longer than it needs to be, taking way too long to get to the point. I mean, genuinely, it just starts to drag on. The movie's on the slow burn side, which there's nothing wrong with. It's taking forever to reach a point that was already made clear well before it's revealed, if that makes sense. Like, as we get closer to the climax, the movie almost becomes less and less engaging for me personally, just because I kind of know where we're headed, and I think everyone watching will too. So it's not like some groundbreaking revelation is made in the third act. It's predictable, I guess you could say. But for me, in my personal taste, I think the movie gets a little too sci-fi, and if that's your cup of tea, you might eat this up. There are plenty of people out there who will adore it. But AI, artificial intelligence, not one of my personal favorite Spielberg films. I feel like near the back half of this movie, it kind of goes down that route a bit too much for my liking. And so I was checking out slightly. Just didn't fully grab me the way I would hope. There are some sci-fi, wacky, sort of silly moments to me that just didn't click as much as I would have hoped for, and that bummed me out a little bit. I also saw an ad for this movie yesterday when I was watching the NBA Finals after the movie, and the way it was marketed was really peculiar. I feel like it's not going to be a movie that lands as well as it could with general audiences, because the movie's kind of deceptively marketed, where it's taking shots from parts of the film and then placing them to make it seem like this is a straight up War of the Worlds type film, and that's not at all what you're getting. There's no real like action set pieces or anything like that. This is a movie all about possessing highly classified information and basically the race between a government organization and a small group to get the information out there or keep it hidden from the public. So at about 2.5 hours, how far can a movie really stretch that idea? I don't know. I feel this way about a lot of Spielberg films. I love him. He's my 1A, 1B director, but a lot of his films I feel like run on for 20 to 25 minutes longer than they need to be. And I don't know why that is. With Disclosure Day, it had all the makings of greatness, but this is not Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It's not E.T., and as much as I wanted this to be a classic, top-tier Spielberg film, it's just not that. Pacing's a major problem here, and when it comes to the writing and structure of the film, it's almost like there were enough ideas to fill out 2 separate movies, and we just ended up getting one drawn-out film that has fascinating concepts, but doesn't quite hit home as hard as I would have hoped. Again, really well-made movie. Spielberg doesn't miss in that element, and at a technical level, this will probably get praised at the Academy Awards. Performances are out of this world. John Williams' score, probably my favorite of the year. But when it boils down to it, I'm moderately disappointed because I did expect outright greatness, especially coming off The Fabelmans and West Side Story. This is my least favorite Spielberg of the decade, I'd say. All that to say, I'm still at about a 3.5, 3.25 out of 5. Well-made movie, not one I see myself going back to when I look at the rest of Spielberg's filmography. By comparison, just because he's made some all-time greats. I am kind of disappointed to say this one wasn't as great as I was hoping. It's more middle of the pack to bottom tier Spielberg, and that's just not what you want. I still recommend checking this out. It's an original Spielberg story. Who knows how many more of those we're going to have. Definitely see it on the big screen, especially if you're a fan of the man. It's not my favorite from him, but it might be yours. I'm not as big on these, contemplative sci-fi dramas like AI, and this is more like AI than anything else for me, at least. But what do you guys think of Disclosure Day if you've seen it? Are you hyped going in? If you haven't, let me know how you're feeling. Hit that like button, subscribe to that notification bell. Be on the lookout for my ranking of all 35 Spielberg films coming later this week. Might be my biggest ranking video I've ever done. That'll do it. Thank you guys, as always, for watching, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.